Everyone. Hopefully you can hear me. If you can hear me, please just put it in the chat that you can hear me. Hopefully I'm having a little bit of technical difficulties this morning, but hopefully everybody's doing okay. Someone raised their hand, so I'm hoping that is you can hear me. I'll start. I'll give another couple minutes for participants to come into the webinar, and then we'll go from there. So just hold tight for another minute or two, and then we'll start. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for coming to this morning's webinar on high school awards. So it's really going to give you an overview of the high school award application, both of our applications, and then really tips on how to make a stronger application. Before I get started, I just want to take the time to recognize that I'm a guest on the land that we are currently on here in Calgary, where the University of Calgary is situated. And it is the traditional territory of the Treaty 7 people here in Southern Alberta, which is comprised of the Blackfoot Confederacy that includes the Chiniki, the Piikani, and the Kainai First Nations. Also, there is the Tsuut'ina First Nations, which is part of Treaty 7, and the Stoney Nakoda First Nations, which includes Chiniki, Bearspaw, and a good Stoney First Nations. The city of Calgary is also home to Métis Nation of Alberta, District 5 and 6. I appreciate being a guest of the traditional territories here and try to do all I can to walk lightly in their territory for sure. So with that said, I'll get started here. So my name is Joel Dooley-May, and I'm the Assistant Registrar for Student Financial Support here at the University of Calgary. I will be walking you through this. I'm going to stop my video so I don't see myself, but just so you know, I'm here. So through this morning, I'll talk about who we are, who Student Financial Support is. I'll give you an overview of high school awards, the different types, some little snapshot of some statistics. I'll talk about how to apply for awards, and then I'll just close by talking about some other options that you might be interested in. So who is Student Financial Support? Student Financial Support is my team. So we look after all merit-based funding for undergraduate and professional faculty students. That includes scholarships and awards. We also look after all need-based funding. So financial need-based funding for the entire institution. So that's undergraduate, graduate, and professional faculty students. So that's bursaries and financial aid. So government financial aid, either provincial or territorial, or if you're a US student, we offer Title V funding direct loans as well. My team also looks after emergency funding. So if there's ever a time where you're in some unforeseen circumstances where you don't have the funding to cover certain essentials in your life, we have options for you there. And then lastly, my team administers our financial literacy program here at the University of Calgary, and that's called Money Smart. And that includes budgeting workshops, peer mentoring, a lot of different options to make it so you can be more successful with your money here on campus. So now here, I'm going to go through an overview of the high school awards. So just before I really get started, when you hear the term awards, that's synonymous with awards, bursaries, and scholarships. We group them all into one thing because we just have applications that include a grouping of everything. So when you hear me say awards, just know it means scholarships, bursaries, and awards for the most part, unless I'm specifically talking about a scholarship, a bursary, or a award. So in the past year, so 22-23, so that academic year, we gave over $20 million to University of Calgary students. That's in their first, second, third, and fourth years of their undergrad. For this last fall, so we gave almost 1,000 entering students awards, and it was almost $6 million for entering students. And the volume of applicants we received for this last fall for high school awards was 2,523. So when I talk about awards, this is the page that kind of breaks them down a little bit. So we have scholarships where the selection is based primarily on academic merit, and for entering students, that's your admissions average. So whatever your average is at the time we do selection is what we will use. There is an exception, and I'll go through that a little bit later. But when we do selection, we use the average that's available for us, and that's how we do the selection for a scholarship. There could be some additional requirements as well on a scholarship, but it's primarily academic merit. Then we have bursaries, and the selection is based primarily on financial need. And the way we calculate a financial need is if your educational costs outweigh the resources you have for your education, you will have a financial need. So it's that simple. In the application, there's certain information that you would enter, which I will show later, but yeah, so. And then there's awards, and awards selection is based on multiple requirements. We have awards for those who participated in the Boys and Girls Club here in Calgary. We have some for students who are non-smokers, which is pretty much the entire population now, but not fully. That award was created in the 70s, so back then smoking was regular on campus. Then we also have prizes, and prizes aren't really applicable for this presentation, but prizes tend to be where the selection is based primarily on the final mark in a course or an assignment. But you see those in upper year courses, usually third and fourth year courses. So the first grouping of awards I really want to touch on is what we call our high school prestige awards. They range anywhere from $39,450 all the way to $100,000. You are required to submit the prestige award application. They may require a supplemental application or an interview. This is primarily with Schulich School of Engineering and Haskayne School of Business. So if you're going into either of those programs and you apply for prestige awards, you may have to submit additional information or even be invited for an interview. And there are deadlines for submissions for this awards application. So for this year, here's a list of our prestigious awards. So we have our Chancellor Scholarship, which is $60,000, so valued at $15,000 per year over 4 years. Then we have our Seymour Schulich Engineering Academic Excellence Scholarship and our Community Service and Entrepreneurial Award. They're valued at, if you're from Calgary or area, it's $13,150 per year over 3 years. So it's only renewable for 3 years and not 4 years. But if you're from outside of Calgary, and this includes international students, the value is $26,350, and it's renewable in your second and third year as well. The reason why that happens is a lot of our engineering students do an internship in their fourth year. So there's no need for a scholarship or award at that time because you're doing a paid internship. Next is just for international students, and it's our International Entrance Scholarship. It's valued at $20,000 per year and renewable for each of your years. So during your 4-year degree, you be getting $20,000 per year over those 4 years. Then for those of you who are looking at going into the Haskayne School of Business, doing our Bachelor of Commerce program, we do have our NLE Leaders in Business Scholarship, and that's valued at $20,000 per year over 4 years. And lastly, our newest prestige award, and this is only for students who are doing computer science, and that's our Kennedy Scholars Academic Excellence Scholarship, and that's valued at $15,000 per year over 4 years, so $60,000 for those who are from Calgary or area, or $25,000 per year over 4 years, so $100,000 for those who are outside of Calgary. This is restricted just to domestic students, so Canadian and permanent residents and protected persons, so just so everyone knows that. Then we also have another application that has our largest grouping of awards. There's about 700 different awards in this application, and they range anywhere from $800 to $10,000. You have to submit a high school award application, and there are deadlines for submission that I'll touch on later. We also have 2 different automatic scholarships as well. So they're automatic admission scholarships that are based on your admissions average. We have our President's Admission Scholarship, which is $5,000, and you just have to be admitted with an average of 95% or better. I know our first round of admissions offers went out, so it might actually be in your admission letter if you do have an average of 95 or better. Notification for the President's Admission Scholarship goes anywhere between November and through September. The one caveat with this is that you are required to maintain 95% or higher with your final admissions average. So if your admissions average right now is 95% or greater, when you have your final average, when we get that in July or August, it needs to be 95. If it's not 95, you'll lose the scholarship, unfortunately. 95 or greater, I should say. And then we have our IB scholarship, or International Baccalaureate Scholarship. So if you're doing the IB diploma program, we do have a small scholarship for you. It's $2,000, and initially we offer it based on predicted IB diploma score of a 35 or greater. You are required to maintain that diploma score, so your final IB diploma score must be 35 or better in order to maintain the scholarship, and there is a deadline to make sure that you submit your IB diploma transcript by August 1st, and that's 2024, not 2023. I just didn't update that slide. So now the crux of it, I'm just going to quickly see if there's any questions or answers that I can respond to really quick before I move on. Some of them will be answered either by Matt, who's on the call or on the webinar as well, who's from recruitment, so he can answer any recruitment or admissions type questions. I'll be primarily focusing on awards. I'll just quickly answer them live so people have it before I move on, but I don't want to spend too much time on this. Zara asks, can you get multiple prestige awards? Unfortunately, no. You can only get one. So if you get offered multiple, then you just have to pick which one you want. There's a question, are there deadlines to submit the application for scholarships? Yes, there are, and I'll touch on that later. That's later in my presentation. Do we need to apply separately for the admission scholarships? No, the automatic admission scholarships are automatic. So you apply for admissions and then it's based on your admissions average. And then for all the rest, you just have to apply. We have 2 applications, one prestige award application and one high school award application, and that's it. For the IB scholarship requirement, you need a 35 average. It's usually out of your normal diploma. So maybe Matt could touch on how the IB diploma score is assessed. I can't touch on the job for the co-op. I don't know that for sure. Question is, there's a to-do list item on submitting predicted IB score results. I'm sure in your application for admission, you indicated that you had IB. Yeah, it's normally your high school coordinator for IB will actually submit it to the school. So, well, this is a good question. If I get a predicted IB score lower than 35, but I get 35 or above in my final IB score, will that get you the scholarship? Yes, it will. I already answered that question. Question, is the Seymour Schulich Award only applicable for engineering? Yes, it is. I'll just answer a couple more and then I can come back to them, okay? Anything admission-based I can't touch on, so final admissions average is always based on grade 12 grades, not grade 11 grades. Your initial admissions average is dependent on what grades you have, so. That already. Okay, I'll two more and then I'll go. I'll touch on the international scholarship one a little bit later. And then a lot of them will go through the application, you'll get the answers. So I'll just move forward for now. So now I'm going to touch on applying for awards. So there's really 4 steps to apply for awards here at the University of Calgary. Your first step, which I hope a lot have already done, is you apply for admissions. Once you've applied for admissions, you'll get access to what we call your student center or student portal, or I like to call it your My UCalgary account, which is it's my.ucalgary.ca. Once you have access to that, that's how you can see your admissions application status, as well as that's where you provide any documentation that's required for admissions, but also it's where you can complete your awards application. So out of these 4 steps, this is the sequence that I recommend is first apply for admissions, 2, once you have access, sign into your My UCalgary account, and 3, complete the high school prestige award application. And then lastly, complete the high school awards application. The applications for awards opened on October 1st, and you don't have to be admitted yet to apply for awards. So make sure there are deadlines, so make sure you apply before those deadlines. So when you log into your My UCalgary account, you'll see something similar to this. This is more of a generic screen capture, but you'll see on the left side of your My UCalgary account is something that has a $sign and it says My Financials. That's where you will click. Then from there, you'll be able to scroll down and there's a section for awards and scholarships, and there'll be a red button. There'll be only one red button there. You won't see 2 like you see on this screen capture, but you just click Apply for Undergraduate Awards. From there, you'll get to our Student Financial Support Application Center, and only the award applications that are applicable for you will actually show up. So you should see the High School Prestige Awards application and the High School Awards application. If you don't see both of those, you can just reach out to my team and we should be able to look into that for you. So for the Prestige Award application, this is what I'm really going to focus on now is make sure before you even complete your application, you think about gathering or understanding some information before. Our Prestige Award application is quite extensive, and if you were going to sit down and probably write it without a break, it might take you 2 to 3 hours to complete. all the responses are long responses that you need to really be thoughtful about and really think about before you actually submit a response. So I always recommend before you even start completing it that you gather some information. So if you volunteer for an organization or you do community service, what was the date range that you did it? How many hours per week were you doing it? What was the position? What's the name of the organization? Who's the potential contact that we need to have? Then when you're looking at other things outside the classroom, sports, clubs, your being part of student councils or student committees, you need to know that information as well. So what are the dates of those? What is the position? Again, what is the name of the organization and how many hours you're putting into it? When you're looking at extracurricular or leadership activities, a lot of our award selections, especially our Prestige Award selection, is really based on what you're doing outside of the classroom. So we're looking at things like sports team involvement, volunteering, student club involvement, student council, affiliation with community association, your work with your faith-based organization, could be multiple different things. The things that we don't want to see is employment. Employment can be, if you're in a leadership role in employment, you can list that, but employment, there's no intrinsic motivation for it. It's all extrinsic. You're getting paid to do something. So we're looking for things where you're involved in your community, both in your high school or your school, but outside of that, to make it better. And these are the ones that we have listed are kind of a high level overview of what the committees are looking for. We also don't want you to include any personal well-being activities. So if you're an avid weightlifter, you're just doing that for yourself. It's not impacting anyone else or your community at all. Same with if you do yoga all the time. It's great. I'm glad you're way more flexible than me and you're very healthy, but please don't include that. So this is a snapshot of what the application looks like. Unfortunately, our application was built in 2005 and launched in 2007. So it's a little bit dated and clunky when you're actually submitting it, but it works for us and you are able to put all the information you need to put in. So the first thing you're going to add is your school or community group, the activity type, the activity, and then the activity description. Make sure you click add here. And then if you're doing it multiple years or multiple different times, then you just add below. So even if your role is just changed, that's where you would include it there. So if you, let's say for example, with your student council, maybe you were a grade 10 rep, and then grade 11 you were a vice president, and then in grade 12 you were the president. So though that's kind of what you would be doing there. Then the next question you'll have to do is really to highlight your extracurricular activities. So I know you've entered them in the previous part of the application, but the next part would be to really highlight the ones that really created the most learning. You don't have to list everything. We don't want to see you list everything. It should be quality over quantity. So briefly describe your extracurricular activities which demonstrate community service, leadership, or volunteerism. Outline your contribution, the time commitment required, and what you learned in participating. So that's the key thing. The time commitments and your contribution, it needs to be listed as well, but really what did you learn from participating in those extracurricular activities? The next question in the application is really, we want to know why you chose UCalgary over anywhere else. So we really want to know what makes UCalgary unique to you. So the question is, describe why you chose to study at UCalgary. What sets it apart from other institutions in Canada? So when we first launched this question, probably about 4 years ago, we didn't really flesh it out as much, and we used to get responses because I'm from Calgary or because my parents go here or my parents are alumni. that's not a really strong answer when the committee does review it. You really want to make sure that you've really done some research in your programming, in what University of Calgary is all about, and how it can actually impact you and the others around you. So you'll hear that's this word a lot through as I go through this presentation is we're looking for a lot of impact. So it has, everything you do has to have some impact. The next question is something that every time I do a webinar or if I do an information session, students always get hung up on this, and students are always wanting to know what is the right answer here. And unfortunately, I can't give you the answer because everyone is different. You have to define what that answer is. So we really want to know what your top 3 achievements are, and really why they are. So that's why I highlight why. Why are they your top 3 achievements? You can say they're your top 3 achievements, but why are they? So what would you consider to be your top 3 achievements or activities? Please list them and describe the impact they had on you and others. As I said in the previous slide, impact is key. So why are they your top 3? What impact has it had on you and others? The next is your community service requirement. So this is primarily for our Schulich School of Engineering scholarship. They really want to know if it was required, and if it's required, then it's not as much intrinsic motivation, or sorry, it's not as much intrinsic, it's extrinsic. So it's external motivation rather than internal, because it's a part of a requirement. So we really want to know, is your community service or entrepreneurial activity part of a requirement at school? If yes, what were the school requirements, and how did your involvement go beyond the requirements? The next set of questions are only for if you're going into engineering and want to be eligible for the Schulich Prestige Awards. If you're going into Haskell, going into computer science, going into arts, going into health science, going into kinesiology, anything like that, you don't have to complete these. So you can just skip these questions when you get to the application. So remember, only complete if you're applying to engineering. First one is, what was your motivation to get involved in community service or entrepreneurial activities? Second is, engineers are thinkers, makers, and doers. Engineers find solutions to society's biggest challenges. Describe one thing that you have done, seen, or read about which inspired you to want to become an engineer. And lastly, briefly describe any recognition you've received for your contributions to community service or entrepreneurial activities. Next one is one of my personal favorites, and it's been in part of our application probably for 10 years. We change and enhance this application every year, but describe 2 personal or intellectual interests that you'll bring to our campus community. We really want to see what thing you will bring to the community. Our selection committee really wants well-rounded students who actually will bring something and make the campus community better, and actually the city of Calgary are everywhere around us. Community is a big key in the new strategic plan here at the University of Calgary. It's called Ahead of Tomorrow, and one of the major pillars of it is the impact on our community. Next, as University of Calgary is Canada's most entrepreneurial university, one question we have is on entrepreneurial thinking. So the question is, what does the phrase entrepreneurial thinking mean to you? Describe the impact it has on your life and the lives of others. We do not want the Webster's Dictionary definition of this. We really want, what does it mean to you? One note that I like to advise everyone, people get hung up on the term entrepreneurial and they think that it means that you started a business. That is not what the meaning of the word is. It's been used synonymously with starting a business or having a startup or doing a venture or things like that. But entrepreneurial thinking is more than that. It's really looking at, well, I'm not going to give you the answer, but you have to dig a little bit deeper than that. And then you have to describe the impact again. So And then another question that we really like is we want to know the impact the receiving a prestige award will have on you. So describe the impact that receiving a prestige award will have on you. That's it. How will that have an impact to you? How is that different than the person who sits beside you in the classroom? Like who would it have a greater impact on? This is really selling the impacts that it would have on you and how it may make things easier for you as you progress through your academic career. Then there's a personal impact students statement. Again, another impact piece. So describe the impact you hope to have on the Calgary community following your graduation from the University of Calgary. So we're looking for what connection will you still have with Calgary and the University of Calgary. So what I know you can't foresee the future like 4 or 5 years down the road, but what are some things that you'd like to do here? This is really your time to be, I don't know, use your imagination, really think of what gaps you might be able to fill but in your time here. Really do, what can you do here on campus that will actually have an impact following your graduation? So those are all the questions for the Prestige Award application. So I didn't leave anything out. So you'll have, at least you've seen them now, even before you go in and apply. So some tips when you complete your Prestige Award application, and this is what the selection committee looks for. So when I talk about the selection committee is anywhere between 10 and 14 individuals, and they're comprised of faculty members across the campus, as well as managers of service areas across the campus as well. It's a fulsome review of the application, so it's quite extensive. So and by having such a large committee, it takes away some of the biases that some might have. Like for me, I was an athlete growing up. I'm not part of the committee, I just lead the committee, but I was an athlete all through university, so I tend to have a soft spot for those who are on sports teams. I know that's I'm aware of that bias, and I try not to use that, but I always do. It's just because I know how much of a profound impact sports have had on myself, but others have other impact, whether it's the volunteering or whether it's the time commitment spent in music or in arts or in drama, or there's another committee member who might actually be more focused on, okay, this student's developed an app, or this student's already has a startup, and different things like that. So that's what the committee is. So it is pretty broad, so it's great. The key things when you are actually completing the application and entering your information, this is a time for you to sell yourself. So, and when I say sell yourself, you don't need to be egotistical, but you're really selling yourself and how collaborative you are with others. So we're not looking for, when you complete an application, I did this, I did this, I did this, a lot of I statements. You should really put a lot of we. So we as a group did this with this organization. I did this in this role, and we completed this. So that's what you really want to look at. Again, I want you to explain the impact your activities had both on you and others. So impact is key. I can't reiterate it enough. It's all about impact. And lastly, as I said, it's a bit of a dated application. So there are word limits. So make sure you watch that, and it won't track it for you. So I always recommend, and this is the last point in red here, complete all your responses in Word or Pages and copy them into the application. So if there's too many grammatical errors in your response, or spelling errors, and it's not cohesive, then you won't even make it to the selection committee. So make sure you do it outside of the application first. Look at what the question is, copy that question into Word, complete your response there. There's and then copy it back. there's the good thing about our application is we'll be able to see if you use ChatGPT or AI to write the responses, because it really has to be personal. So we're really looking for that personal touch, and ChatGPT can't actually write that for you. So just give you a heads up. So that's it for the Prestige Award application. So now you've completed the Prestige Award application, you've submitted it by the deadline, and now you need to submit your high school award application. So the Prestige Award application, I'm going to touch on deadlines a little bit later, but I'll just highlight it now. The application deadline is December 1st, so it's less than a month away. So you have to make sure that you apply by that deadline. Then once that's done, the deadline's so much later for our high school awards, so it's not even that big of a deal. Plus, when you complete your application, it might take you 20 minutes to complete, and you don't even have to leave it. You just go through it and submit it all. So there may be a couple questions where you need additional information. We have, for example, we have one award for students whose family were ex or are in are or ex Canadian military. So we just need to know the regiment number that they were in. That's the only requirement for that. So you might need to find that. So when you're completing the high school awards application, the first component is to enter your financial need. So you only need to complete if you truly have a financial need. So if you know that your education is going to be paid for by your family or an RESP and you don't actually have a financial need, you can skip this whole section. Just click no on I wish to enter my financial information, and then you won't be eligible for bursaries, but you'll be eligible for awards and scholarships. So it's not a bad thing. Just be kind of truthful with this. So, but if you are wanting to be assessed for a financial need, please click yes. And then really the questions that are asked are driven by your marital status. For this group that I'm talking to right now, the majority of you are still in high school, so you'll probably be single away or single living at home. So please click one of those two. So tips when you're completing everything, it really is just entering numbers from here. Enter as much information as you can. Do not leave any of the fields blank. If it's 0, then enter 0. Remember, and this is something I'll stress all the time, the totals are for the standard academic year, which is September through April. So it's 8 months. So make sure you're entering numbers for that 8 months. Don't just enter for 1 month, because then your need assessment won't be as true as it should be. Make sure you're entering for 8 months. We want you to be realistic. So if your resources are estimated by an assumption, then do not include them. The example is earnings from a summer job. You may have, let's say you work a summer job and you have the last couple of years. We all know, we've all been through it. 2 years ago, well, 3 years ago, really, COVID happened, and a lot of people didn't have those summer jobs that they had before. So make sure if it is based on a summer job, you do not include it. And if your expenses fluctuate each month, or even your resources fluctuate each month, please put in an average. And then there is a section about having extenuating circumstances where you can put in an additional dollar value, but make sure when you're entering that, the circumstances must impact your education. So make sure you explain how it impacts your education. The next question, it will be just future career plans. So you'll have a list of all of these careers, and you just check off which ones you're interested in when you complete your undergraduate degree. Make sure you select all that you're interested in. I know when I was in grade 12, I did not know what I was going to do. I originally was going to be a writer, and then I went into tourism, and then I went into education, was a teacher for a few years, and now I work in post-secondary. So just select all that you're interested in. To be honest, I never knew I'd want to work in a registrar's office, but I love it. So it's interesting. Next are associations, societies, and clubs. Make sure you select if you've been involved with them, you might be required to provide additional information. So there's one for Boys and Girls Club, there's one for the 4-H, there's one for the Canadian military, there's one for if your parents are members of AUPE. So it's that's the Alberta Union of Public Employees here in Alberta. Both the military and the AUPE, you'll have to require AUPE, you'll have to provide your parents' name. So you should know that. It should be easy to know that, but yeah. Then we have questions about residence. So even though it should be auto-populated, you just want to make sure that this information's correct. So please read all the instructions on the page. We're looking for your permanent address. So your permanent address tends to be where your parents live, even if you're living somewhere else. Please ensure your address information is up to date in your My UCalgary account as well. So it auto-populates here, but you just have to make sure it's correct. Then we want to know about your previous high school, because there are awards specifically for those who are graduates from certain high schools throughout Alberta, and there's even those who've graduated in high school in other countries and other provinces. So please read the instructions again. Search for the high school before entering your information. We should have every one of the high schools listed. If it's not, then you can enter it, but please search for it first. And then we want you to include all high schools you attended in grade 10, 11, and 12. Nothing before that, but just 10, 11, and 12. And if they're all the same, you just put that it was in 10, 11, and 12. I'm going to skip past this because I realized I didn't update it. So the deadlines for applying for awards, for our Prestige Awards, is December 1st. Or did I? No, I didn't. December 1st, 2023. So you have less than a month to submit your application for Prestige Awards. We do have a secondary deadline for that award application, and that's only for additional documentation. And the additional documentation for that is just getting your transcripts to admissions. So we like you to ensure that you get your transcripts to admissions by December 15th. Then for our high school awards, you have some time. So it's March 1st is the application deadline. It corresponds with the application for admission deadline. So make sure you apply by then. And then there really is no additional documentation outside of transcripts by March 15th, but most should have them in by then. If you are lucky enough to be a recipient of an award, for Prestige Awards, we do all the notification by the end of March. If you ever get a phone call and you hear this voice, that's a good sign in March or February. That means you're getting a Prestige Award. And then the rest of our high school awards will notify if you've received the award by the end of April. We do this so you have the ability to make the best decision for you, because you have until May 1st to accept your offer of admissions and pay the $500 admission deposit. So as an award recipient, payments are always, so let's say, for example, you're a recipient of the Prestige, sorry, not the Prestige, the President's Admission Scholarship. And the President's Admission Scholarship is $5,000. It'll be split evenly over fall and winter terms. So you get $2,500 in the fall and $2,500 in the winter. It will be applied to your tuition and fees in late August for your first payment, and then applied to your tuition and fees in mid-December for your second payment. One thing, to receive any awards here at the University of Calgary, you do have to be a full-time student. So you're looking at 3 courses per term or a 60% course load. You need to have it in both fall and winter to be eligible. So I've touched on all the awards for entering students that we administer, but we also have awards for continuing students. So remember, your first year is like before you get admitted or before you start is the first time you apply. Then you'll apply in your first year in March is when the application opens for continuing students. The one key thing about applying for continuing student awards is you need to complete at least 24 units over fall and winter, which is For some students, units, it's synonymous with credits. So look at 24 credits, which is 4 courses per term, or you could do 5 courses in the fall and 3 in the winter. But that's for continuing student awards. Before I go on, I'll just see if there's any questions I can quickly answer. Isaac asks, can you pull the application back and add more information after it's been submitted? Yes, you can, as long as it hasn't hit the deadline yet. So in order to do so, you have to reach out to my team. You just email us at ucawards@ucalgary.ca, and someone from my team can reopen your application. But you have to make sure you submit it by the deadline. So if the deadline is passed, we can't reopen your application, but if it's pre the deadline, we definitely can. Question is, how many scholarships can we use? Like if we get a couple of them, including entrance scholarships and scholarships applied separately. Well, we follow a philosophy of equitable distribution here at the University of Calgary. So we try to get as many scholarships to as many students, but scholarships with that are stackable. So you can get President's Admission Scholarship plus a Prestige Award, or a President's Admission Scholarship plus another, or a couple other smaller scholarships. So there definitely you do have the ability to have a few. Question about the NLE Leader in Business Scholarship. Unfortunately, that is only for Canadians and permanent resident and protected persons. It's not applicable for international students. I've answered the next one. Evan asks, are there any prestige awards going to the Faculty of Science? Our Chancellor scholarships are for all faculties, so there's definitely those. Only our admission scholarships are given out on a rolling basis. Anything that requires an application, it will be after the deadline. When filling out the application, am I able to put in more than one extracurricular activity, leadership activity? Yes, you definitely can. So please do. For the question, whether involvement was required by your school, if no, do you still answer it? Yeah, you still answer it. You say, no, it was not required. And then move on. That's it. Can the scholarship application include an unpaid internship as one of the extracurriculars? Yes, definitely can. It's unpaid. You're doing that. It's like volunteering, right? But you're actually learning, and you just have to describe what kind of impact that internship had on you. It says on your website there are other programs, including chemistry, that are listed considered Schulich scholarship, and you're saying it only for engineering. That's because that's a different scholarship that I'll touch on later. So we help administer what's called the Schulich Leader Scholarship, which I'll touch on, which is for STEM, not just engineering, but our Seymour Schulich, because our School of Engineering here at the university is called the Schulich School of Engineering. And our prestige awards that we administer internally here at the University of Calgary are the Seymour Schulich scholarships and awards, and they're for engineering. But our Schulich Leader Scholarship, which is applicable at multiple different institutions, is a little bit different, and I'll touch on it a little bit later. For extracurricular activities, when it says years involved, it only allows you to add your 1 year. You just have to add another record. You just have to keep adding each record for each year that you've actually entered it or had been doing it. that one's been answered. I have some RESPs, but not enough to cover uni. Can I still apply for bursaries? Yes, of course. Is the financial needs section applicable for international students or just domestic? No, international, definitely. We're one of the few institutions that actually have bursaries for entering students, for international students. The next question is about extracurricular activities. There's an activities section, and this option is very specific. Example, it is very specific. Do you fill out other activities, 1, 2, etc.? If it's not in that section, yes, you definitely do. And it is limited to only 5 activities because we don't want to know absolutely everything you want to do. We want to know the one. That's why I said earlier, quality over quantity. I want those responses to be limited to 5, so you can actually show what extracurricular activities had the most impact on you. The next question I really can't answer. So how do you know the amount to put for estimated spending when filling out the bursaries or food, utilities? That I don't know. It really depends on, I don't know how much food you eat. I don't know how much you need to spend on groceries or other things like that. I don't know where you'll be living, so I don't really have that answer. You'll have to do some research yourself. I already talked about the notification, so I won't touch on it again. For question 1, the prestige awards outline community service time period. Do you expect this answer in bullet points or in paragraph form? Again, that's up to you. If you think you can outline it better and really explain the impact, then in bullet points, then do so. Can you change the intended program of study even though you've paid the application fee? Yes, you can. Matt should be able to respond to that for you on how the process is. So I'll leave that up for Matt to answer. I started a new opportunity where I'm a teacher's assistant at school this year. It's a mixture of helping the teacher with her task. Would this be an appropriate? Yeah, that definitely is. As long as it's not paid, definitely include that. I'll have Matt respond to that one. On an earlier slide, you were correct. So IB scholarship initially is offered based on predicted IB grades. You don't have to wait for your official grades, so we can offer it to you, but in order for you to still maintain it, you do have to have a diploma score of 35 or greater. The next is an admission-based question, so I'll leave that for Matt. The question is, could I include a business I started as an extracurricular leadership activity? Yes, I think so. I know you're probably making money off it, but please include that because it's quite a feat to actually to do, Kenneth. So please include that. Does one application for Prestige cover them all? Yes, it does. That's the great thing about it is for Prestige awards, for a high dollar value awards, you just submit one application. So that's great. You got admission for fall 2024. It starts in September. It's great. So the question, Brent, is there's Prestige awards for international PR students and citizens. So we have some for every student group. I won't go back and show the slide for the IB scholarship, but you just need a predicted IB score of 35 or greater. And that's a diploma score, so a full diploma for your IB. And you need to maintain the IB diploma score of 35. I'll answer this because I've seen it a few times, but I did touch on this. So notifications on whether or not you receive a scholarship or an award happen three ways. So if you receive an automatic scholarship, so either a President's Admission Scholarship or IB scholarship, that happens on a rolling basis starting near the end of November and goes until September. If it's a Prestige award, you'll know by the end of March at the absolute latest. And if it's the rest of our high school awards that you would apply for, you would know by the end of April at the absolute latest. Question about the Chancellor Scholarship is, yes, we normally give out more than one. We always give out more than one, I should say. We normally give out 9, so it's quite a few. So I'll just respond to a couple more, and then I'll move forward in the presentation. For extracurricular activities, is sports just one, or can you use multiple sports? Yes, you can use multiple sports, up to 5. Yeah. Does being a subject perfect count as? I think it does. You just have to indicate why it would be applicable. For Prestige awards, can we leave the leadership role section and description blank under each extracurricular if we didn't have? Yes, that's exactly what you do. If you didn't have a leadership role, you can just leave that blank. Okay, last one, then I'm moving on and I'll respond to the rest at the end, okay? If I have been doing extracurricular activities since before grade 10 for the sections where would I put it other? No, we only want to know what's in grade 10, 11, and 12. So if you're doing it before that, that's okay. You can put that as kind of a comment later, but only list what was in grade 10, 11, and 12. Okay, I'm going to move on with my presentation. So I'll still respond to all the questions that are there, but we'll just respond to them a little bit later. So now I'm going to I really focused primarily, the presentation is primarily for the awards that we administer here at the University of Calgary. So I've gone through all of those, but now I'm going to touch on a few other options that really students should look into. The first is the Schulich Leader Scholarship. So this is the most prestigious STEM-based scholarship in all of Canada. So it's administered at 20 different institutions across the country. We are one of them, lucky enough, and it's $120,000 for engineering and $100,000 for other STEM programs. And the STEM program, there's one piece, it cannot lead to anything in the medicine field. So the way it works is it's only for Canadian citizens, permanent residents, or protected persons who are studying here in Canada at a Canadian high school. So the way it works is each high school or CEGEP across the country can nominate one student. So if you think you're the best STEM student in your high school, then you should probably talk to your high school counselor to make sure that you get nominated for this scholarship, especially if you're going into engineering, science, technology, or math. We have 6 recipients each year. So for this last fall, we had 3 for engineering and 3 for science. I always plug this because the nomination deadline does come quickly. It's in January 30th, 2024. So make sure that you talk to someone at your high school if you think you're going into STEM, so science, technology, engineering, or math, and you want to be a Schulich leader. The great thing about the Schulich Leader Scholarship, it's not just the money, is you become part of a network across the country and you have mentorship opportunities as well as events that you can go to. The picture that I have here on the screen is actually Manpreet Dial, who was one of our Schulich leaders, and she did an internship at Garmin, and then she ended up being a Rhodes Scholar and got a full ride to Oxford to do her master's. So it's quite impactful what our Schulich leaders actually can do after they receive it. Then for Alberta students here who are on the webinar, we do administer a lot of Alberta student aid-based scholarships and awards. They're only available for Canadian permanent residents, protected persons, and who are Alberta residents. So anyone on the webinar who's went to high school in Alberta and had an average of your core academic courses of 80 or higher in grade 10, 11, or 12, or all 3, or 2 of the 3, you will be eligible for the Alexander Rutherford Scholarship. You just have to apply for it, but the application doesn't open until August 2024, and you just do that through studentaid.alberta.ca. So I always plug the Alexander Rutherford because the majority of our Alberta students who get admitted to the University of Calgary tend to be eligible for it. So I just want to remind you to make sure to apply. Then we administer external awards for some certain organizations. I've listed 3 here. These are great ones for individuals to look into. I always recommend don't just focus on the award applications that we have, look at external sources as well. One of the key ones to always look at is Universities Canada. It doesn't matter if you're going to the University of Calgary or going to another institution across Canada. Universities Canada has the largest database of scholarships that support Canadian students going to Canadian students, not always just Canadian, because they have international as well, and they're quite high dollar values. That's where the TD scholarships are. They're $100,000. There's the Ted Rogers scholarships that are about anywhere between $40,000 and $100,000 as well. So those are some examples of them. So please make sure you check out Universities Canada and all the scholarships that are there. You have to apply for each one of the scholarships individually, so you can look at it and see if you'd be applicable for it, and if you have the time, and the ability to actually apply for it. The second one I always want to touch on is the Calgary Foundation. Calgary Foundation is a philanthropic organization here in Calgary that has multiple scholarships, awards, and bursaries that students can apply for attending at the University of Calgary or another institution in Calgary or area. So please check there. And the last one I really want to highlight is for our Indigenous students, and it's our partnership with Inspire. Inspire has an application called Building Brighter Futures, and we have multiple awards that are just for the University of Calgary that are through that one application. So please look into that. We also have others listed like the Loran and multiple different organizations listed on our website. So if you just go to ucalgary.ca/awards to see what's available there. So that's really it for my presentation. So I'm just going to answer the remaining questions that I see. The presentation went really quick today, but the questions usually take some time. So let me just go through the remaining questions that are here. If you don't have any questions, or if you got everything out of this presentation, thanks for attending. I hope to see you on campus in the fall, and you can always reach out to my team or myself directly if you need more information. I'll just quickly put in the chat what my team's email is. So you can have that. now I'm going to answer all the questions. So what happens if you don't have a reference for some extracurriculars? The person I would use as a reference, I can't contact them now. That's okay. Still list your extracurricular. It's just good to have that just so you can verify the information. So the next question is based on O levels and A levels, or A level predicted grades, which matters more for scholarship. That I can't really touch on because it's based on your admissions average. So whatever grades they're going to be using and provide the best average for admissions, that's what'll be used. We rely completely on admissions for averages for scholarships. So whatever average you're getting admitted based on. So for the career plan information, what if the options don't match what your major is? Like I'm thinking computer science. That's okay if it's some of the careers listed are things that you'll have to actually get a graduate degree or a professional faculty degree based on. We have lots of careers that are based in medicine, and you can't get into medicine directly from high school. So make sure you check off if you're looking at going into medicine. Question is, how many students get prestige scholarships? It really depends. So I know for our Chancellor Scholarship, there's 9. For the NLE Leaders in Business, there's 1 for this year. For the Kennedy Scholarship, there's 2. For the Schulich Scholarships, there's 21. And then there might be another one available, but I'm still working on getting the funding for it. But and then for international, there's 2. So I have to do the math in my head. So we're looking at 32, 4, 5, 35. For the Schulich Leader Scholarship, computer science definitely does fall under that. It definitely does fall under that for the Schulich Leader. If you're nominated for the Schulich Leader Scholarship, do you have any tips for their application? The tips are very similar to what I've listed for the tips for our application. We really want to see the impact. The application is quite interesting. They also have a top 3 achievement piece. There's also make sure that there's where do you see yourself in 10 years? Make sure there's nothing listed about activism or that you are doing things theoretical. So they're looking at students who are going into STEM that are actually solving real world problems or doing something like that, either entrepreneurial based or you're creating solutions for the world. So those are the tips I can give you for the Schulich Leader Scholarship application. If none of the career paths align with anything you want to do, then that's fine. You can just leave it blank and move forward. Are there any external awards applicable to international students? Yes, there's lots. Both Universities Canada and Calgary Foundations has one specific to international students. And remember, the majority of our awards outside of our prestige awards are applicable for international students. It's just our Schulich engineering and our international entrance scholarship for prestige awards that are actually applicable for international, but our high school awards, the majority of our awards are eligible for anyone, so domestic or international. You don't have to list the contact for reference. We're not going to reach out unless you're actually audited, but we'll reach out for that information later. I wouldn't put projects as extracurricular activities unless they're a project with an organization or that actually lead to some endeavor or impact in the community, in your school, something like that. So, oh yeah, chat is disabled. Good call. Thank you. I forgot it is, but I'll just reiterate it again. It's ucawards@ucalgary.ca. So UCAWARDS at UCALGRA Calgary, GARY.ca. Sorry. For applicants like me who do not have any money, can we get full tuition? We don't have anything like that at the University of Calgary. You can apply for awards and maybe it'll equate to full tuition and fees, but we don't have what's considered a full ride scholarship. That's or a bursary. That's a very US model. It doesn't really happen very much in Canada like that, where everything is paid for. So yeah. Question is the STEM scholarships, so that's the Schulich Leader, are they for international students? Unfortunately, they're not. Share the email again. The email is ucawards@ucalgary.ca. My understanding is you do not need to pay to send your final IB grades. We will just get them automatically once you're completed. We have access to the database that actually shows it. So yeah. For our Prestige International Entrance Scholarship, we have 2 of them, but we also have our International Entrance Awards, which we actually have 18 of them that are $10,000 that international students are eligible for. We try to give 2 per faculty, and there's 9 faculties that entering students will be admitted into. So. Maybe Matt can answer the next question about predicted grades and the O-level piece, because I don't deal with admissions or recruitment. So I answered this question earlier, but do we always have to fill out the leadership activity for each extracurricular, or can we leave it blank? You can leave it blank in some cases. You only have to put the leadership information in if it's applicable. Can sports such as snowboarding count as sport involvement? That is, it's mainly an individual sport. You can include it if you're on a team. So if you're competing, if it's a competitive sport for you, just because it's an individual sport, that's okay. Like let's say you're on, like I know a lot of skiers are on part of a ski club, or there's snowboarding clubs, or you're on Team Alberta or Team BC or Team Canada or something like that. That's when you will list it for sure. This is a good question. What's the best way to make you stand out? As I stressed before, the best way you stand out is to show that you're super collaborative. You're collaborative in everything you do, and that everything you do and that you outlined makes an impact. Okay, impact is key. The answer is, can I get multiple high school awards? Yes. It really depends on what our applicant pool is, really depends on your application, but you can. Well, that's a good question. Approximately how much scholarship do an international student with a 90% average receive? It really depends, to be honest. I couldn't tell you the specific amount. A 90% average is a good average, so just make sure you apply. If you'll never know unless you apply. So I can't guarantee how much or actually say how much on average. So it really depends on our applicant pool. So it changes every single year. The question is, I'm part of the Schulich Ignite coding sessions. Would that constitute extracurricular? Yes, it definitely would. Are there any scholarships where my school can nominate me? Not that we administer unless it's the Schulich Leaders Scholarship, but I'd recommend talking to your high school counselor or someone at your high school. They might be able to answer that better. The question is, how many months involved would it put for an upcoming extracurricular activities that I will be involved in this year? Just indicate what you expect to contribute. Doesn't have to be exact, but try to be as close as you can. Question is, how many total awards are there? So for all of our awards that we have here at the University of Calgary, there's over 2,500. I think it was like last I created a couple this week. So I think it was 2,672 last time I looked. So it's probably 2,674. But that changes all the time because some donors don't renew, so we might have a few less than that, or we might have a few more. So that's how many awards that we have. But we give out awards to about 5,000 students every single year. So actually over 5,000 students. Question is, do I need to test English proficiency test for scholarships and awards as an international student? To get admitted to the University of Calgary, you have to show a certain level of English proficiency. So if you're not admitted, you would never get a scholarship. So you can apply, and by the time you actually receive the scholarship, you need to be admitted. So the question is there only Q&A going to occur until 9? Yeah, pretty much the application is pretty much done. I'm only going to do questions and answers for the next little bit. So is an 85% average a good average for scholarships? It definitely is. I would recommend 85 is like a starting point, but it's really depends on the program that you're in. So we have scholarships and awards that are for specific faculties, specific departments. So really depends on that. Question, if you've chosen for a Schulich Leader Scholarship, who decides what university it will be used for? If she has received multiple offers for admissions at all universities and programs are eligible to administer it. So the way the administration of the Schulich Leader Scholarship works is that your high school will nominate you, and then you submit an application to the Schulich Foundation after that nomination happens. And then in that application, you indicate what schools you're looking at attending to, and then we will receive that information, and then we do the final evaluation and offer of the scholarship. So it really depends on which one of her schools actually offer the Schulich Leader Scholarship. And then at that point, she can choose which one she wants. The question is, if I'm doing an important extracurricular activity in the future, not completely done yet, or not completely done yet, can I include it as well? Yes, definitely do. Please include, let's say you're an athlete in X sport and that your competition doesn't start until the winter, then please do it that way. Brent, some of the interviews can be video or Zoom based, depending on what is needed. So yeah. For the number of months involved, would I put the planned number of months for activities that we're involved in this year? Yes, definitely do. Please do. What are my chances of a high figure scholarship with a GPA of 3.9? It's pretty good, but it really depends on what your curriculum transfers to, what an Alberta-based curriculum would be and what your admissions average is. So it really depends. So that's really a question about how to convert your courses, and it's better to reach out to admissions about that. Which scholarships need interviews? Currently, it's the Schulich Leader, or not, sorry, not Schulich Leader, the Seymour Schulich School of Engineering Community Service and Entrepreneurial Awards as well. So that's only for applicable for those who are going into engineering. And then the NLE Leader in Business, you actually have an interview with the Dean of the Haskayne School of Business. So yeah. The question is, I'm an international student. My grades were evaluated equivalent to 4.0 GPA on the US scale out of a maximum 4.0. With this GPA evaluation, what types of merit-based scholarships or awards may I be eligible to apply for? Honestly, I would apply for them all. Apply for Prestige Awards, apply for high school awards, and then yeah, and then it'll be based on your application and based on the competition on who else has applied. So yeah, apply for them all. If significant extracurricular activities were stopped because of a new disability diagnosis, can history of activities reach further back to grade 10? This is one where I would not include it in the listing of extracurricular, but in the statement after it. So that's where you really want to focus on what that was, because that probably has a greater impact if it was significant, right? So the question is, do you give out scholarships for the students' transcript grades? It's based on your admissions average. So everything, all of our academic merit-based scholarships and awards are all based on admissions average. So it's not your full transcript grades, it's just the grades that are used for admissions. Question is, what scholarships require references? None. We don't require references here at the University of Calgary. If you're looking at the Schulich Leader Scholarship, when you submit your application to the foundation, they'll require references, but we don't use them. References tend to do more harm than good when reviewing award applications. Is there a separate application for the international entrance scholarship? No, it's part of our Prestige Award application. So just complete the Prestige Award application, and then you'll be eligible for that based on being an international student. So for time you have been doing activity, you'll put in how much time between grade 11 until the end of grade 12. Yes, but you put each grade entry separate. So it's under the main activity category, but then underneath you can put your years involved. And you're in grade 10, this is how much you did. Grade 11, how much? Grade 12, how much? So okay, it looks like that's the end. I don't have any other questions. So all participants are still online. Thank you very much for attending. I do have another session similar to this. If people can attend in person, it'll just be a review of what you've already heard, but you'd see it in person, and that's on November 22nd. If you need additional information, please check our website. So it's ucalgary.ca/awards, and a lot of the information, well, not a lot, but there's information there that can guide you as well. So please utilize that. Thanks again for attending. Oh, there is one last question that I'll answer really quick. Can you please explain which years are looked at for activities and leadership? It's grade 10, 11, 12. So we're looking at everything for grade 10, 11, 12. You're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks for attending, and I hope everybody has a great day. And yeah, hopefully I see everybody in the fall, next fall in 2024, attending at the University of Calgary.